Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to show off a 3 levels of creeper farm video if you wanted some different ideas of how you can get creeper farming at different stages in your game. So whether you just need a little bit of gunpowder to maybe get you started off with some TNT, you need just a few more creepers to get you some rockets, or you want an absolute crap ton of gunpowder so that you can get whatever you need in your world exploded, this is what we're going to get into. So let's get to it. As usual with the 3 levels videos, there will be a world download in the video description where you can download this world that has the 3 different farms in it that you can teleport over to. I also just wanted to make a quick note, in these 3 levels series, there are some farms out there that might be perhaps a little bit better suited for the mid-tier and the high-tier levels, but I am really aiming to not just steal other people's content in order to make these videos. This is just more concepts of how to design farms for these types of things. So you may see a design out there that is actually more appropriate for that mid-level. By all means, build that then. I'm not saying these are the only ways to farm these creepers, but this is just kind of looking over those concepts. And first, we're going to go over some of the mechanics of creepers, and then we're going to get into looking to the different farms. And there will be timestamps down the video description if you want to skip ahead to a specific one. But first, we're going to see a little preview of the 3 different farms. Now, before we get into the mechanics of creepers, I did want to quickly mention a couple of things. One, again, the highest model here is only approaching OP. There are other farm designs out there, especially it sounds like, according to Glotz, going to be some interesting mechanics coming in 119 for sidewards accelerated mob farms. But that is not what this is covering. This is covering only up to the approaching OP. There are tons of other resources out there if you're looking for those super high level farms. But I'm looking for something a little bit more buildable for your average player here. Even in the approaching OP one, you need to make sure that you know how to make perimeters and that sort of thing. So that's all we're getting into there. Another note, if you are looking for gunpowder and you're willing to use exploits in the game, by all means look into stacking raid farms. One of my favorites being the Kronos design. There were some changes in 118 117, but there's a very simple fix for it. You can find all that online. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But that's going to not only get you a bunch of gunpowder from the witches, but also redstone from the witches, glowstone, emeralds from the raiders, all that kind of thing. So if you are just strictly looking for a way to get gunpowder and you're willing to use any of the exploits in the game, check out those stacking raid farms, because those drop rates are insane. So let's start talking about the mechanics of creepers. Creepers will spawn in any biome in the overworld at any Y level. They have very few requirements. The first one being, as of 118, they need light level 0 to spawn. Before 118, that was light level 7 or lower. But in this case here, we would see, because it's daytime, it's noon, we wouldn't get any creepers to spawn. Because we're at light level 15, you can see that in the bottom right of the blocks there. But we're at black light level 0, so if I was to put a torch down, we'd have those there. There was a design that worked really well for getting about, I think it was about 70k gunpowder per hour by Logical Geek Boy. It was a great design. A lot of people built it. However, unfortunately, it no longer works with 118 because of these changes. Because portals emit light, that means that the light levels were seeping into the spawning platforms on the farm and severely decreasing the amount of drops you'd get, almost to the point where I would say it's not worth it. I don't know if he's working on a update for that. I haven't seen anything on that, but I do know I've seen it come up a lot of times on Reddit, and unfortunately, that design, as it was in 117, does not work in 118 because of the light level changes that you see here. You can see I've updated my mini HUD so that the light level 1 is green, so they can only spawn in the red areas, and that would be at nighttime. Of course, it doesn't have to be nighttime. It could also be in an enclosed dark area. So if I set the time to midnight here and we use the carpet mod to put down a carpet and check the spawning, you see in this list here, we have a creeper. They have a pack spawn size of 4, like most of the other mobs, and they will fit in there. Unfortunately, as you could also see from that list, that puts creepers in the same spawning capabilities as zombies and skeletons. So we don't want them. We just want gunpowder. So we need to do something to get rid of them. Luckily, the way that we can restrict them is because of the creeper's height. So if I put down 2 blocks here, that's 2 full blocks, and I'm going to spawn a skeleton right next to it. And then I'm going to turn on hitboxes, and we can see that that skeleton is exactly 2 blocks tall. But if I spawn a creeper next to those 2 blocks, we can see the creeper is shorter, is a little stumpier. So he actually has a shorter height than the skeleton as well as the zombie. So if we take a trapdoor and we put that down right there, we can see that skeleton is now taller than the trapdoor. He wouldn't be able to spawn in it, but the creeper is shorter than it, so he would still be able to spawn. So now if I put down a pink carpet under there, we can see the creeper is still in the will above 0. So he still can spawn, he will fit, and his will's above 0. And we can see that skeletons won't fit and zombies won't fit. So we are going to use that height difference to our advantage to eliminate both zombies and skeletons from our spawning. However, unfortunately, that still leaves spiders. But spiders need a 3x3 area in order to be able to spawn. So if I cover this up with glass blocking that layer. Oh, hi. Okay. And put down the carpet, we can see that spiders no longer can fit because they need a 3x3 area to be able to spawn. One of the reasons we're using glass in this, you could also use something like leaves. The first design is going to use stairs, but the pack spawning algorithm can travel through these non-conductive blocks. So a solid block like dirt or stone or something like that, it would block the spiders, but then it would also stop the pack spawning algorithm. And that's really all we need to know about creepers so that we can start farming them. So let's get over to those. This version here is the quick and dirty. This is going to be good for you don't have any big farms up yet. Maybe you plan to rush the dragon. You want some rockets so that you can go get yourself some elytra. This is kind of a mixture of a few little concepts from a mob grinder and then also using cats here. And let me turn on my gamma override so we can see what's going on. But we can see we've got cats in each of these corners here, and creepers are scared of cats. So we're using that to our advantage for one main reason. Creepers will run away from cats even if they're not actively pathfinding. You notice that we have the AFK spot all the way up here. I'm going to turn up my fly speed so I can get up there faster. If we are standing up here AFKing, Unfortunately, the creepers that spawn inside the farm, they're not going to pathfind. So they're not going to fall into the trap unless we put those cats in order to scare them. Now, unfortunately, with this design, it doesn't scare all of them. Some of them are going to spawn right on the edges and won't naturally pathfind their way in. They'll despawn. That's fine. Again, this is a quick and dirty version. This is still 600 gunpowder per hour, so it's going to be enough to get you some starter TNT or, like I said, some starter rockets. But what we're doing here is we have these spawning platforms with all trapdoors above them. We're using slabs here because slabs are a non-conductive block, so they're not going to stop the pack spawning. But they are leaving no area of a 3x3 spawning space for a spider, so spiders cannot spawn inside of here. And what happens is the creepers think they can walk over the trapdoors, they fall into the water, and then they get pushed into here, they fall down, and then they land on the campfires. The reason we have the campfires so low, we're not really worried about fall damage here. The campfires do emit a light level, so if we were to move those up, even by 1, we're now taking away some of our spawning spaces. You could also use powdered snow in this hole right here, and then move your hoppers up. However, that does require you to find powdered snow. In this case, the fact that powdered snow takes so long to kill them doesn't really matter to us because you're not running at mob cap with this design here. Once you're up at the AFK spot, everything that's down below, all the caves down below, are actually outside of the despawn sphere, so you don't have to worry about any spawn proofing for this. And then we just have some hoppers underneath the campfires to pick up the drops. We are using stairs here as the wall because, again, a non-conductive block. So a pack spawn can start here and it can wander into the farm. And then we do have a little skirt around here to raise up the height map just to make sure that we can have some of those pack spawns starting out here. If we didn't have the skirt around here, it wouldn't matter with having this on the side because the pack spawning wouldn't go that high because the height map would be lower on the outside. So this is a pretty simple design. As you can see, I made it just completely out of dirt and cobblestone just to show the cheap resources. You do need to bring over a couple of cats and breed them, but then it's only 4 cats total, so it's not a very big deal. Without the cats, you're going to get the same spawn rates that you would inside this farm. However, unfortunately, you're not going to get the same drop rates. Because as we said, that pathfinding, once they spawn, they do just a brief moment of active pathfinding, and then they will stop. They will just stand there and just despawn then. So they won't actually fall down into the trap and die. We have our AFK spot here up at Y176, as you can see in the top left there. And then we did build this on the ocean so that we didn't have to spawn proof anything around here. And we knew that there weren't going to be any high level caves. Because as you can see, everything in this red sphere is still spawnable. Whereas if we just built it on the ocean, we didn't have to worry about that. You could, if you wanted, build this over the land. You just need to make sure that you spawn-proofed everything inside this circle on the ground and make sure there were no low-hanging caves that were going to be inside the bottom of this sphere. And you'll be good to go. So that's design 1, quick and dirty. Now we'll head over to version 2, we're getting an upgrade where we still don't have to worry about spawn-proofing. And we're getting up to 26,000 an hour now. Now this one for sure, we have definitely built over an ocean because we have actually moved the AFK platform down further so we can fit a lot more spawning spaces in there. So our AFK spot is down at Y160 and our despawn sphere moves further down into the ground. So again, you could build this on land. You would have a much larger area to spawn proof up on the ground level, and you need to make sure that you're not affecting the light level inside these platforms. You can see I've got the portals just low enough here that none of the spawning areas are light level 1. Once again, though, our AFK spot is going to be high enough that they're not going to do any pathfinding for us. So what we're going to do in this design is flush them with water buckets to fall down into the hole, and then we're going to flush them into the portals using water. We could do slice portals to have them drop right onto a slice portal. However, once again, we need to move the spawning platforms a little higher, and I still wanted to get this version so that it wasn't using any exploits. I know there are a lot of people who in their worlds, they think of things like update suppressors, stacking raid farms, TNT duping as something that they don't want to do. So I still wanted to have a design for people who wanted to have things like that so that they can still get their gunpowder and blow stuff up. So all we have here is we have an etho clock that goes into a monostable circuit. We have 2 delays. So What we want is we want to make sure that the water has enough time to flush the creeper over, but then we want to clear it out long enough to give ourselves time to get spawns back up to the mob cap. So I'm just going to turn on this clock, and we'll see briefly here what it's going to do is it's going to flush everything over. We have these timers kind of offset a bit. As you saw, it kind of filled there, then filled there, then filled there. And the reason that we're doing that is so that we have some more spawning spaces open as we're waiting for that water to recede. And we are restricting it to only creepers by having the trapdoors above our spawning spaces and only having our spawning spaces being too wide, being cut off by glass. So once again, the glass allows the pack spawning to go through so we can still get more of our spawns over there, but it doesn't allow any spiders, zombies, or skeletons in. Because we don't have an enclosed area, we do have to have a slab or other spawn-proofed light-blocking platform that comes off to the side by 15 blocks from any of our spawning spaces so that we can block out that light level. And then once they get pushed in the nether, they push their friends outside of the portal, and then they fall down to their deaths. And all we have is just a couple of mine carts under here, picking those up going into 3 hoppers. We do have 3 hopper lines because at 26,000, hopper speed is only 9,000 items per hour. So we need to distribute that a little bit so that we can make sure that we don't have any blockages in our hoppers. You could move this farm up and just have them fall down and die from fall damage in this design. However, then once again, you're moving your spawning platforms higher up and you are increasing the height map of this area, so you're reducing the number of spawns that you would get. So that's why I've opted for this. The time that it takes for them to drop and get pushed to the nether portal is pretty short. It's not much longer than what it would take for them to fall all the way down to their deaths. And in this instance, because we're worried about the height map, because we're not doing any spawn proofing, that's why I've gone with this method. So that's it for design number 2. Let's go check out the approaching OP version. So with this version, we're looking at about 86,000 gunpowder per hour, and we've made a full perimeter, as you can see. Check out your favorite YouTuber's version of a World Eater. I definitely recommend Ilmango or Pixels for their World Eaters. They're super efficient, work great. This will help us get our spawning platform lower. So now the spawning platform here, which is these shifting floors, is at Y -34. So we've drastically reduced the height map all the way to, in this case, it would be up here at -31. We're using shifting floors at that -34 level so that we have enough room to drop them down so that they die in the overworld. You could, if you wanted, use this design and drop it down even further to be on top of sliced portals. However, in this instance, once you're looking at these many creepers, that much shifting floors, these many items, adding in loading another dimension, in my opinion, is just not worth it based on performance and what you're going to see out of it. So this is still a one-dimensional farm, so this will still work in single player. I should note, version 2 will still work in single player as well, because those creepers will self-load the nether. That killing chamber and collection system was so small that it'll definitely be loaded. But this is, we don't have to worry about any loading in the nether either. So what we have here is we have shifting floors. If you're not familiar with what a shifting floor design is, what it is it's a floor that alternates between a full block and a soul sand block, and then has trapdoors. And what that does, as we can see over here, the creepers that have spawned, is if these blocks were to get pushed over by these pistons here, then the creepers that were standing in soul sand, they would actually be lower than the actual concrete. They would glitch into the concrete block and fall through. If they're on the concrete, then the next time that the concrete gets pushed back, now they're on top of soul sand and get pushed in the concrete as well. And so that's the way that we're dropping them out of here. And we can even see right here is a good example. We have one on concrete, one on soul sand. You can see the concrete creeper is standing higher than the soul sand one. So I'm going to turn this on. This many moving blocks and pistons is not very friendly on the client, as well as the MSPT either. You're going to see that MSP jump up to about 40 is what's going to run at. If you want to see that MSPT improve a little bit, it is going to cut into your rates, probably about 6,000 to 7,000 per hour. But you can just drop an extra item, so you have a total of 3 into that hopper clock there, and that's going to even out the MSPT significantly. So here we can see with the shifting floor, that creeper that's standing inside the soul sand he glitches into that concrete block and is able to start falling. The one that's on the concrete block, once again, he falls down into the soul sand level and then glitches into that block and falls. They then fall down on top of magma blocks. The reason I've chosen magma blocks here is because I wanted to move this down as low as possible. But some of the creepers that fall through aren't taking just enough of that suffocation damage in order to die when they hit the ground. So I think I would say about 5 to 10% of them still survive when they hit. But if we have it on top of magma, then as they fall, they also take a bit of magma damage, and that's enough to put them over the edge. So if magma gathering wasn't your thing, you could move this up by one layer and then use some slabs here instead. And then underneath, we just have minecart tracks that have hopper minecarts that collect the items. And I'm just going to release those here. So they'll go through, pick up all the items. Then they'll come back to the hopper minecart unloader. It will shoot all the items into the water stream. And then they're all going to flow over to our shulker box loader over here. In this case, the water streams aren't going to be perfectly spaced because you're going to need to find a place where you can fit in that ice block in between the bedrock. So there's not much bedrock at this layer, but there is some. So there's a couple of examples right here. There's a place where I had to move the ice a little bit closer than the 8 because the bedrock was right where I want to put it. You could also break that bedrock if you really wanted to. However, I don't really think it's worth it because you're just adding in a bucket of water is all. And so that's the design. It's basically just these modules of the shifting floors and the modules of the hopper minecarts and hopper minecart unloaders just stacked up. And as you can see from the mob cap up there, we are running at mob caps, so there's not really much reason to add any more of these modules. You might be able to push it by another 500 an hour. Nothing significant by building an extra row of these modules. You do see a couple of times where we do dip down below that mob cap, but we're pretty much almost all the time running at mob cap. That's going to be it for this video. Hope that helped you out and hope you learned something. Maybe you, again, want to combine versions of these farms to make a design that works for you, that gets you the specific number of raids you're looking for. That's really my goal with these 3 levels farms, is not to just provide a schematic for what you can build, but to give you ideas of what you can do for your own farm design. So if you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. Tell me down in the comments if you have a design that you're going to use based on what you've seen here. I'm really always interested to hear those types of feedback. That's really why I'm making these videos. So again, world download will be in the video description of this. And until later, I'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Bye.